Hey guys, Dustin Miller, PPC Pros. This is going to be part 7 of our 7 ROI hacks that we use for our family lawyer case study to help them get their leads up by 300% and the cost per lead down by about 70%. So this is the last one. This is actually one of the most important things that we were able to help them with, and also most important thing that you can do for your practice if you're running AdWords. And it has to do with the landing pages. So the case study, we started from part 1 all the way through now, part 7, with the easier to implement to the most difficult to implement. And so now we're at landing pages, and we're not just talking about design. If you look on my screen to the side here, you'll see I have an example landing page, which is very similar to what I would recommend for clients. For this particular client, this isn't the page that we switched them over to. I can't actually show their website for privacy reasons, either the old one or the new one. But we're going to be testing a page very similar to the one that you see in front of you and see how well it does in terms of conversion. But let's go back to the case study for a second. When we did our Google Ads audit for this client, we noticed a few things, a few very common issues that most attorneys deal with their landing page. So number one, very first issue was their above the fold content. So once again, I'm not going to be able to show it to you, but you've seen this before. You've got an attorney website, maybe you have a website like this, and the whole section above the fold, which is the part, if you're looking at this particular, this landing page, so it would be the section that you'd see before you have to scroll down to see further, is a huge hero image, is what we call it. It's basically a big banner. And maybe it has the name of the practice and your tagline and a learn more button or a contact us button. And then the picture is, a city landscape or, something else nice and pleasant. But it doesn't really do good for conversion reasons, because there's some elements we're going to talk about here in a minute that it just does not deliver on. So that was the first issue that this particular client had with their above the fold section of the page. So what they were missing was, it was literally a page like I just explained, one big image, taglines, a call to action. They did happen to have a phone number at the top of the page. So you can see right here, if we look at this example page, some of the key elements you want above the fold are going to be, number one, your contact information, your phone number. Also, your call to action in terms of what you want people to do next. And you want to be very clear what you want them to do next. You also want to have some information about, it basically connects with them right away. And I'm going to go through a few of these bullet points here. I've got 3 of them on the side. This is going to be a little bit deeper than just the case studies. This is kind of what we're going to be testing, also what we changed a little bit, and also what you should consider when you're, either doing your ads, your content, or your landing page in general. But the point was, above the fold, we want to make sure we're catching people's attention. We're answering some of these questions we're about to talk about. We have a clear call to action, and people know what to do. So let's look at these 3 questions. So this is something that has been brought up in a lot of split testing studies that have been done through basically large organizations, not just something that we've done, but organizations that are hired by pretty big brands to test thousands and thousands of different types of pages and campaigns, and most of all, content and people's reaction to see how things go. And 3 of the things that it's been boiled down to very simple kind of science when we're talking about landing page experience and what's going on in people's head and what you need to provide. But there's 3 things that people ask that they found that you need to answer as fast as you possibly can. And this is typically done above the fold, which is why I'm talking about it now. So the 3 questions people ask are, number 1, where am I? So when they hit your page, do they understand where they are? Number 2, what can I do here? Meaning, I'm on this place. What is the next logical step? We'll talk about a few of these qualifying questions to help drive this home. And number 3, why should I do it? So if we answer these 3 questions quickly in a matter of a few seconds or even faster, right? They have a much better chance of the conversion process beginning and them giving you more time to consume the content that they're going to view. So if we look at this, number one, so I want to make sure you guys understand what we're talking about. Where am I? People are going to ask themselves, do I understand what I'm looking at? If they come to a page that's just a big hero image with the company name and maybe a tagline and a button below it, do they understand subconsciously? I mean, granted, they clicked on an ad for, let's say, a custody attorney, right? So they can probably make the assumption that that's where they are on a website for a custody attorney. But when they get there, they're looking at a background of a city or they're looking at something else. Do they understand where they are, right? So that's something to consider. And then the next thing they may ask themselves is, do I feel like I'm in a place that will solve my problem, right? So it's like, where am I? And am I in a place that I feel like makes sense for what I was about to do? I was looking for a child custody attorney. I clicked on a child custody attorney's ad. Do I feel like I'm in a place that makes sense, that I will find what I'm looking for here, right? So that's the first thing you want to answer as quick as possible. And we'll talk about that on this page. If you look right here, do I understand where I'm at? Well, we made sure our subheadline said Chicago Child Custody Attorneys. And that's very clear so people understand where they are. They can see very easily, get a free case review. This is just a generic logo that I plucked from there, that sort of thing. So very quickly we can answer that question, where they are. And do I feel like they'll solve my problem? We're going to talk more about the content in just a second. Number two is, what can I do here? So do they understand what the next clear, logical step is? We tried to make it very clear. When you hit this page, you see that there's a little orange arrow pointing down and this other kind of reddish arrow pointing to the right, which is pointing to our call to action, our get a free case review or call. Either of those two things. What can I do here? Obviously, there's content they can consume. They can see some of these images, they can dig deeper, but the main thing for us is we want to understand when they come to this page, there is a call to action. This is something that they can do here. The second thing for the second part would be, is it too confusing for me? Once again, we put the call to action, we use unique colors for the call to action. Both the arrows pointing to the call to action, and the call to action itself, we use unique colors that are used not in many other places on the page. So we have the green for the phone number and for the button, which there is a little bit of green here in this divider, but that's because we didn't want to have just random colors everywhere. And then we have these orange and red kind of colors pointing towards it, so it catches the eye. They associate these colors hopefully with the call to action, and it drives their vision to these sections of the page. So is it too confusing for me? No. If you make people try to figure out what they have to do next, if you give them 10 options, if you give them links all over the place on where they can go to learn more, if you do all that, you're going to make it too confusing for people. So you want to make it very, very simple and not overcomplicate things, right? They're looking for a solution. You offer the solution. Yes, there's a time and place to content market and to educate them, and that's a good idea. But I think the main point here, once they're at this section of their search process, the sales process for you now, is to make it clear and easy for them to get to the next step. The third thing is, why should I do it? Now, this is a big one. And we're going to talk about this right now with probably spend the rest of the time in this video on this one point. So with our case study client, a couple of things that they did weren't helping this. So one of the other issues we noticed on their page, which is very common for a lot of the attorneys probably watching this, or people that you know, is that when you typically get to their content, their page about child custody or divorce, or just their generic family law page, a lot of times what you're going to find is content that reads more like a Wikipedia page than it does anything helpful or useful for somebody who's trying to solve a problem, right? So you get to a page, excuse me, about child custody, and what do you see? You see a definition of child custody and what it is, and in that state, here are some of the, the statutes that go along with it. Or you read about divorce, and there's uncontested divorce, and there's contested divorce, and what's the difference? And these are the kind of things that, yes, have their place. They are helpful. They're beneficial. If you're using it for search engine optimization, I get it. But don't put it above the fold at the section of the page where humans are going to read it and be more likely to engage with with you based on what they're about to read, right? So that was the second thing that they did really bad on their pages. It was like a Wikipedia page. The third thing is they didn't have the trust factors. So actually, that's not true. They did have them, but they were below the fold. They were not easy to find. So we had to work with them to incorporate some of these trust factors. And so you can see some of that, some of them right here. But those are the other two things they did wrong. And that's going to tie into this third step here. So people hit your page. They're looking for a child custody attorney. They've seen, 5 people before them, and they may see another 2 or 3 lawyers after your page, but they're here right now. So the question is, they understand this page is about you being a child custody attorney. They now see the call to action, which is very prominent, but they're asking themselves subconsciously, why should I take the next step? Why should they go through this process? What is going on in their brain that's going to make them want to reach out to you versus your competition, or reach out to you at all? So there's a couple of things that goes through people's mind, which is number one, do I believe this person or company can help me? And so you can see we created content that is speaking to an individual. So we try as best as we can when we have the opportunity to speak to a person, not speak about a person. So basically what I mean is in your content, you can talk about how, 10,000 families a year face child custody issues, and there's all this long drawn out stuff about other people. Well, we don't want to speak to other people. We're speaking to them. We want to speak to your ideal client. They're there. They're on the page. So we started to use, like in this particular example, I threw this together, guys. This is not live for anybody right now. We're going to have a very close kind of representation of this for this case study client. But you can see right here, this headline. We want it to be very clear. We'll fight for your family, right? So we want to be very clear that we're on their team. We're on their side, right? When somebody says they're going to fight with you or not fight with you, but fight for you, they're an ally. They're a person that has your back, right? You want somebody to have your back. When you're trying to get your kids home in a safe environment, you want somebody that's going to have your back, right? Because maybe half your family doesn't have your back. Maybe your ex or your spouse's family doesn't have your back. You want somebody to have your back, right? So this speaks to, in my opinion, this is all my opinion, this speaks to somebody feeling like, okay, this person understands that we need somebody to fight for us. Then we get into some of the content. We're not talking about the definition of child custody here. We're trying to dig deeper into the emotional mindset of a person coming to this page, right? Maybe they're skeptical. Maybe they've read, like I said, 5 attorney pages before this that all talked about the definition of child custody and how great they were as an attorney. Okay, great. And they're going to see 3 more after. We want to be different. So subheadline, we understand your situation, ... We want to lead them into the content. We want them to know we get it. We understand where they're at. So child custody disputes can get heated and downright ugly. They probably already know that, or they are about to find that out. This is especially true if they're in an unstable, unsafe, or abusive environment with the other parent. And we're talking about the child at that point. Right? And we don't want, and I put that in bold so you understand this is something that I want that to stick out. We don't want your kids exposed to this type of treatment any more than you do. Let us help you today. We also kind of finish with, you've already got enough to deal with, so make sure you have the best representation during this crucial time we can help with. And then I just changed that, so we have to drop we can help with, but there were some bullet points for certain types of representation, whether it be restraining orders or whatever. Anyhow, we just updated that, so I got to fix it. My bad. But the point of it here is that we want to speak to this person. So when they ask their question, why should I do it? Why should I take the next step? Do I believe this person, company can help me? We want them to understand we understand their situation. We're different. And here's why we're different, because we get you, we understand what you're trying to do. We're not just speaking at you, we're speaking to you. And even with our free case review, right? We're saying, let us help you navigate this often confusing time. The call is free and only takes a few minutes. Like you hear in all those legal commercials. I guess that's where they kind of came from the back of my head. But the point is we want to make this relatable, easy, understandable, right? So the first thing is we're trying to connect with them. So when they ask themselves, do I believe this person can help me? We want to answer that question with, yes, we understand you. That's how we can help. That's the first thing. Then the question is, do we trust this person? So this client, like I mentioned, had some trust factors, but they were kind of buried. So what we wanted to do is lead with a couple benefits here, which is why I have to change this because we changed it recently. A couple benefits that speak to why they trust you as, a person or a company, right? So we'll use some benefits. We'll use some accolades if we can. So affordable representation. We'll talk about that in a minute. But 35 years child custody experience, AVO 1010 superb rating. You can see down here, we use our results speak for themselves, and then we use some credibility badges, which whether they know what they mean or not, typically answer subconsciously to people that this person knows what they're doing. They've got some type of an accolade that they can go off of. In addition to that, in case they dug any deeper, you can, we try to give a little bit more added benefit, which is, here's why you need to call us right now. And then we just speak a little bit more deeply into each of the pains. So you know your clients better than anybody else. If you're talking to people on a regular basis, then you understand their objections, you understand their fears, their desires, their motivations. You need to speak to that in this content. You need to speak to them in a way that if you know that 9 out of 10 people that call you for child custody cases are scared, they're scared their kids are going to be taken away from them, speak to that here. Speak to that in the sense that you could say, we understand that you're worried about your kids being taken away from you. Here's how we can help. And just address that concern right up front. Speak to it. So we try to do that by just having other areas where we're talking to them as humans and also kind of helping position us, position ourselves as a natural runner for their business, for their attention. The third thing, which is, are they, meaning you, better than other options available to me? In other words, compared to the competitors, the last 5 attorneys' websites I've looked at or people I've spoken to, and compare with the next 3 I'm going to look at before I decide on who I'm going to call, is this person a better option than me? So we're talking about differentiation. We're talking about being clear on your value proposition, which hopefully content like this, where we talk to the person and we explain that we're on their side plus, then that's going to help you stand out. So when the time comes, you want them to remember that you are the better option. Now also, don't expect them to remember you just because you're so great. So give them a reason to remember you. Things that you said, video content helps with that a lot. You see we have a generic picture of an attorney here, but sometimes you can incorporate obviously your picture, a friendly picture as well. That will help remember who you are if they see you in other places. That doesn't hurt. But basically what you're trying to do here is you're trying to help people answer the question, why should they talk to you? Why should, even if you're not the only person they talk to, why should you be one of the people they talk to? And you really want to speak to that. And a lot of times it's because you've humanized yourself and you're not some high and lofty attorney that's going to treat them like crap or that's going to talk down to them and make them feel stupid for the decision that they're making or that they've made in the past. You're somebody who understands where they are and you're going to help them and you're going to be kind. A lot of times that's what they want to feel from an attorney, as you well know, probably at this point in your practice, that they want to deal with a human that cares about them, right? So the last thing, and we're going to wrap up after this, is there an incentive to take action right now? So a lot of times you have, a lot of times there's not much you can say, right? Free consultation or, things like that. We've worked with, we're going to test some copy that has to do with time being short, right? Like if we're talking about, let me think of a good example. If we're talking about prenuptial agreements, right? Then you can talk about taking action now. You probably have a pending or an upcoming wedding date that you're going to get married. That's why you're looking at a prenuptial agreement right now. Hey, the closer you get to that wedding date, the more difficult your spouse may be to actually sign that agreement or agree to it or whatever, right? There's a lot of factors you can play into, but the incentive here is to take action now because the longer you wait, the more difficult you're going to make it on yourself. Or in this case, we look at this page, we're talking about a free consultation. So what's the incentive? Yeah, free consultation. That's been done to death. But we try to do, get my free case review where maybe, and we're talking about the call is free, only takes a few minutes. So the incentive here is that we're trying to make this simple and easy. Yes, free, but we're going to review the case. We're not just going to talk to you, right? We're going to try to give it a little more value in that respect. Let us help you navigate this often confusing time the incentive there is this is a rough time, you need a little bit of help. So it's just kind of building on, do this now. Is there an incentive to take action right now? Very important. One last thing, if we go back to, are they better than other options? And also speaking to unconscious objections or conscious objections that people have, like I mentioned before, about the fear of losing your kids, right? If people are afraid they're going to lose their kids, and that's a fear that that they have based on talking to lots and lots of people, you probably also already realize that cost is another pretty big factor for a lot of people. When they have a child custody dispute, they need to get a divorce, it kind of sucks when they're wondering, man, how much is this going to cost me? Should I use LegalZoom? Is that a better option than paying a lawyer a lot of money? Or, what's going on with that? So in the benefits, in the content, if you use things like affordable representation, then that may help subconsciously speak to their mind that, okay, this attorney says they're affordable. Does that mean that they believe you? Not necessarily, but it might give them enough of a mental check mark in that affordable box in the back of their head that they at least talk to you and find out more about your rates. If you can use a flat rate that is affordable and that most people will qualify for it, even better, because then you answer the question very specifically. But if you're not comfortable or not able to do that, then just being able to answer these unconscious thoughts along the way and these unconscious objections and fears to remove friction and resistance is a really good idea to do on the page. So needless to say, back to the case study, we helped this client out with some of these factors, and we were able to increase their conversion rate anywhere from 40 to 60%, which is great. It was a really big help, but we're also going to be testing some additional pages with a more direct approach because they didn't implement a lot of the things we're talking about. They did some of them, but they didn't do all of them. So we want to take it to the next level and see if that also helps. But this is pretty much it, guys. And this could be a big help for you. Sorry this video ended up a lot longer than I expected, but I think it's that important to, everybody talks about the design of a landing page, right? Is it pretty? Does it look good? Does this page look pretty? I don't think it looks very pretty at all. But if the messaging is right and it speaks to your ideal client, that's what matters. Look, and if their motivation is high enough, they'll look through the design and they'll get right to you and contact you if you've made the connection. People connect with people. They don't connect with bland organizations. So you want to be human and also professional, but human, and be able to connect with them. So this was part 7 of our 7-part case study on how we help this family law client. Hope you enjoyed the ride and the process. Hope you were able to download the PDF, which you can still get below this link. Don't forget, if you found this valuable and you're running AdWords for your practice and you don't really know how to implement all the things we talked about in the case study, but you still want the benefit of it, what we can do is do an AdWords audit, a Google Ads audit, just like we did for this client. We do that for you. If you've watched this case study and you've downloaded it, there's a special link in the PDF where you can get the exact same kind of audit we did for this client for yourself at no cost. So normally we charge anywhere from the low end $500 to $1,500 or $2,500 for an audit, depending on whether or not, how big the account is and what the goals are. But if you get that special link and you submit a audit review, I'll try to put you at the top of the list if I can and make you a priority and get the same benefit. There's no obligation to work together. You can take the information and have your own team implement it or do it yourself or don't do it at all. It's up to you. But we're offering it to people who took the time to go through the case study with us and found it valuable. Once again, that's for attorneys. That's not for every other vertical out there. So if you have any questions, let us know. Thanks for watching and wish you the best. God bless.